of my 2 cents on it, so. Oh, okay. Well, I think I covered my bases pretty well, so thank you.
Thanks, Jordan.
I'll make the motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. First item is continuing
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. At our last work session, we had some discussion regarding the Park Board, and we gave an overview of the Parkland Trust Fund. At that time, at the end of our discussion, the council proceeded with directing staff to update our ordinance to really make sure that the Park Board mirrors our other boards and commissions, and that there's additional oversight in regarding specifically to the Parkland Trust Fund. So staff have drafted Ordinance 623, which is included in the packet. We hope that that meets the intent that the council has, but happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Well, I'm just going to offer that I spent a fair amount of time on this. I think that the ordinance does a good job, the way it's drafted, doing what we talked about doing. So, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to offer a motion that we approve the ordinance.
Second that motion.
discussion on that.
And we do have Craig online now. Alderman Kittle? Alderman Vries?
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier?
Yes.
Alderman Gartner?
Yes.
Alderman Volkert?
Yes.
Alderman Montello?
Yes.
Motion passes. Now we'll go to new business. Preliminary and final plat application.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This preliminary and final plat application was submitted by JPB Land, again for a preliminary and final plat for an addition to Fox Run to be known as Fox Run 7th Edition. The proposed addition is located north of County Road K off of Squirrel Way. The addition consists of 38 single-family homes and 12 twin home lots. Additionally, this addition will establish a second entrance to the Fox Run subdivision off of County Road K via Coyote Way. The future land use map guides the site for low-density residential, and the zoning is Z2 suburban district. Single-family and twin homes are allowed uses in the Z2 district via approval of building permit applications. Again, Coyote Way will be extended directly to County Road K, which will provide the second access point, which will enhance traffic flow, access for residents, and emergency services. The access to County Road K was approved conditionally by the St. Croix County Highway Department with six conditions that are listed on the memo. The applicant is proposing to construct a 5-foot wide concrete sidewalk on the west side of Coyote Way, and this will eventually connect with the County Road K Trail, which the city received a grant for and is proposed to be constructed in 2027. We do have some additional conditions about adding another 5-foot sidewalk on the east side of Coyote Way, along with pedestrian crossing signage, pavement markings, and curb ramps. To assist with the vehicle flow, we have asked that they construct an island, a concrete island in the middle of Coyote Way to help slow down traffic coming north and south. No parkland is proposed to be dedicated with the plat, and so the applicant will pay park impact fees at the time of building permit applications. City staff and the Plan Commission recommend approval of the preliminary and final plat applications with 21 conditions, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
I'm curious, do you know how many developers are involved in that whole project, that whole area there, how many different developers is that?
Throughout,
Roughly?
throughout the whole Fox Run development?
Yeah.
Noah, do you have an estimate?
Could it be a half a dozen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And as I'm looking at the map, and Amber, you said something about the county has approved an easement, or something about,
Second driveway.
yeah, second driveway, is that, and I'm looking at the map. So is the intention then to have another roadway off of K that goes into this? Or this is Coyote Run the main artery that goes into Fox Run?
Currently, Foxway is the main
Okay.
intersection that goes into the Fox Run development. This Coyote Way will be further to the east, and this will be the second entrance. To clarify, there is a section north of what they're platting, which will be vacant between this Fox Run 7th and the Fox Run 2nd edition. And the JP Brooks group is not purchasing that in-between section, and so we can't require them to construct a road and connect the north to the south if they don't actually own the land. Yes.
Does it go around? The second,
yet.
is it gonna connect?
Eventually, when the section to the north connects, it will go all the way up to the second edition. Right now, this Coyote Way leads to Squirrel Way, which connects to Fox Way, which is the other entrance.
Like we're talking about Noah's Ark here, but anyhow, but I am curious, because I've been out to that property just a little bit, and there is no sidewalk, which has nothing to do with this development, by the way. I'm just gonna ask a question. There really isn't a sidewalk that serves, if you live in there, we're gonna build a trail, but there's no way to, without being on the street, to get from your home to where the trail's gonna be, correct?
So with Fox Run's second edition, there's a phase of road of Coyote Way that's being constructed this summer, and that does have a sidewalk on the west side. So that will eventually connect to this section that's being developed with 7th.
So just relative to a plan, somebody's gonna get on Coyote Way, there'd be a sidewalk that would get to Coyote Way, and that's how they're gonna get, is that the plan? That's how they're gonna get to K?
From north to south, yes.
So if you live, and again, this doesn't have anything to do with your development, I'm just really curious, because if you live, I'm sorry, is it Fox Run? What's the main street, is Fox?
Foxway.
Foxway.
Fox Way.
Yep.
So if you live to the north there, you're gonna come down, the plan is to come down, to head to the east, go south, to head west. I got that right?
Perhaps if you live on the east side of this whole Fox area.
Well, right now, there's no sidewalk
Right.
to get to K. And it sounds like the only set sidewalk involves this development. So I'm just, if you live over here, okay, that's terrible. This is west, this is east, okay, this is Fox Run. But if you live over here and you want to get down to K, you would go down to Fox Way, come down and get on the trail, right? Am I understanding that right?
Yeah, so essentially, when the first phases of Fox Run were put in, sidewalks weren't required. So right now, even if this development wasn't proceeding, we put a trail in a few years ago. There currently isn't a sidewalk on Fox Way connecting. Essentially, you're walking along the side of the road.
Right, and
Now, newer phases like this one, we
Yep.
have been requiring it.
it's all good.
But at some point, that is right, because logically, you're gonna go the path of least resistance. If you live further north on Fox Run, you're not
Right.
gonna go east to go west.
So again,
right?
this has nothing to do with this particular development, but we should put that on the radar, that we need something out there for
Yeah.
people to get safely down to K. And right now, it's not important because there's not a trail there. But by the time the trail's built, we definitely want a way for people
You
to
got a
get
way to
down.
get there. Yep.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, I'm going to offer a motion that we approve this with the 21, you said, conditions. Amber, I was trying to read all of them, but as it's in the memo.
Second.
Pete?
Question?
Craig, go ahead with your question.
Yes.
Alderman Vries,
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Gartner,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Montello,
Yes.
Alderman Kittle.
Next item, concept plan application, Gerald, Klasen, and Klaus, Lebrecht.
Jerry Klasen submitted a concept plan application for a 33.87 acre parcel located south of County Road K. The purpose of the concept plan is to provide an overview of a proposed project to allow an opportunity for staff and policymakers to provide feedback and identify potential concerns before the applicant puts more time or resources into a formal application. The concept plan is to divide the parcel to create a 2.5 acre lot, which would be sold for the construction of a 1,500 square foot industrial building, 15,000. That would be occupied by Antlers by Klaus. The memo that you had in your packet has an overview of the business. Antlers by Klaus is a high-quality antler reproduction company. They specialize in antlers, trophy mounts, fish replicas, and complete wildlife displays. The remaining 30-plus acres would be used for the purposes of a single-family home and conservation. The concept plan also provides for the installation of private well and septic systems rather than connecting to municipal well and, water and sewer. The Plan Commission reviewed the concept plan on May 6th, and there was a motion to recommend the applicants proceed with subsequent development applications for the proposed concept plan, and it was a 3-3 vote. For the detailed analysis, the future land use map guides the site for medium high density residential. This primarily includes attached housing types such as townhomes, apartments, and manufactured housing. The proposed manufacturing and processing business is not consistent with the future land use map. The site is zoned Z2 suburban district, and the purpose of the Z2 district is to provide opportunities for low density residential, limited neighborhood commercial uses, and complementary uses. The proposed manufacturing and processing business is not allowed in the Z2 district. Therefore, the applicant would need to rezone or spot zone the parcel to Z7I, special use industrial, which is the only zoning district that manufacturing and processing businesses are currently allowed in. Or the alternative would be to amend the city's zoning ordinance to allow manufacturing and processing businesses in additional zoning districts, such as residential districts. Spot zoning refers to the practice of rezoning a small parcel of land that's not consistent with the surrounding zoning designations. The practice of spot zoning isn't illegal, but it's generally discouraged in urban planning as a best planning practice due to consistency and alignment with long-term planning goals. The applicant is also proposing to install private well and septic. The parcel in question was created as a part of a CSM that was approved in 2024. And as a part of the CSM, one of the conditions was that the future development of this parcel would be required to be served by municipal well and septic, municipal services, and the cost to connect and extend services would be borne by the developer at that time. And so private well and septic would not be considered. Concept plans aren't subject to approval and denial, but rather we're looking for feedback from the city council on your thoughts. And to start off the discussion, there's a good question that was in the zoning section. Do you want to revise local ordinances and/or approve spot zoning in order for an industrial business to locate in an area which is guided for residential? Or is it more appropriate to direct such development to the existing business and technical park or near the New Richmond Regional Airport where land is already designated for manufacturing and processing?
Part of it's in a low area. Klasen owns that piece of property. Traffic, they have spot zoning here, residential area.
Are you going to have these gentlemen make a presentation, or we want to discuss it right now? How do you want to proceed with this?
Come up here, yeah.
You're gonna excuse me because I'm very hard of hearing.
Huh?
So I didn't necessarily hear you. So actually, Jerry Klasen, 617 Lake Street North, Prescott, Wisconsin. And so I do own the land that we're talking about, 33 acres, as well as the 2 barns that are right next to it. And I think both Klaus and I were looking to, we deer hunt, bow hunt, the woods back there. And we're looking to kind of keep the land in conservancy, not develop it, put a lot of homes in there. And so felt like this property sort of really fit his business as a taxidermist, as a world-class taxidermist. And so there's not a lot of heavy manufacturing. There's not, as you can see, not that many employees, so would not be a lot of in and out, I don't think. And it is a unique piece just because I always called it like an island, just because it's got the railroad tracks on one side, then the Willow River on the other side. And then the other side is the barn, the barn I own, as well as a shed there. So there's really no neighbors at all. And this piece where we're looking at this a couple acre piece to put Klaus's 15,000 square foot building on, right across of it, it kind of looks at the river. So there's no other neighbors there. So any other questions, I'm willing to answer them.
I'm curious, and I'm going to ask you, Jerry, but we talk about spot zoning. So we have an area that's basically zoned residential, and we want to put inside this, we want to put this little thing that allows for industrial/commercial, right? If this whole piece of property was zoned, and I actually don't know what the right designation is it commercial, is it industrial? I hope you understand what I'm
I
asking.
think it's Z16, Mike, is what you're looking for.
Okay, if the whole piece of property were zoned that way, is that considered spot zoning?
It is still considered spot zoning because the surrounding zoning designation is Z2 suburban district. And I think one of the factors that's important to consider is if you were to rezone to Z7 specific use industrial, this would allow, let's say Klaus and his business leave in 5 years, any other use that is allowed under our use table as an industrial use to operate out of that space. And so if we spot zone it industrial, that's gonna open it up for all industrial uses in the future.
You know, I will say that the comment / the argument that you put forth, just looking at the map, I was on a canoe once back through that property, and I get the idea of a piece of ground relative to your business. It all works. I absolutely get that. This is a hard deal because it's not an option. If you could say, okay, change the zoning on the whole parcel, I think when I say spot zoning, I'm talking about this, but fair enough, Amber. That's problematic for me. But even if you apply, Jerry, to have the whole thing rezoned, and the city put in, and there was an agreement that this was the only business that was going to be there, is that an option?
So the zoning designation runs with the property.
I
so
understand
That's not going
that.
to be specific to the.
Yep.
But could you clarify your question, Mike, in terms
Okay,
of?
so let's say that Jerry Klasen wants to sell this land to his friend. And if Jerry said, you know, I'm willing to put a covenant on there that this business will get built there and nothing else. There'll be no homes, there'll be no other industrial, no, there will be nothing else. And that covenant is a permanent covenant, Nick, if there is such a thing, to say, because it's definitely problematic to say we're gonna put, and again, what's the right term? Is it industrial or commercial? What would you describe this particular business as?
This would be considered industrial.
Okay, so to put an industrial building in a residential area is problematic. You could say, well, I've seen it done in other places, and for as nice and as clean a business as you have, Klaus, and I think the mayor made the comment, rightfully so, you have a very unique, New Richmond's very fortunate to have you here. Okay, so I'll throw that out there. But the idea that we're gonna take a residential area and put in an industrial use in the middle of it. And again, keep in mind, we're sitting here, you're a craftsman. You're probably not gonna live forever, are you? Yeah, you and me both. And I'm not saying that to be smart. I think the number of times that you can look in the city of New Richmond and people said over the last 75 years said, oh, let's do this because we've got this good arrangement with this particular people, and the people are gone, and then what happens to the arrangement, right? I think your idea of having kind of a conservancy back there makes a ton of sense to me. But for me to say, we're gonna take this almost serene business, everything you do is inside. We're gonna take this very serene business, and what you do is super in keeping with the natural setting. I mean, I get it completely. We can't have homes around that. Can't. That's my opinion, and I think people talk about spot zoning and the problems it creates, and I will tell you that I've been around long enough, Jerry, not as long as you, but I've been around long enough to know that every time the city has kind of made an exception, I can think of a number of cases where it has come back to be a bad long-range deal. I think if this property were in a conservancy, that would be awesome, but it's your land.
Right.
And so I don't know, Klaus, what the answer is, but I can't sign off on putting your business in an area where we're gonna sell to homeowners. And so that's why I'm asking the question if there's a way, and whether you're willing to do that or not, it's a whole nother deal. Say, yeah, I'll sell him the whole thing. And he can have his business there and that's it. But it's still, that falls under spot zoning, so I'm really not trying to give an opinion. But that is more palatable to me than saying, well, we're gonna have homes there with industry. That is problematic to me.
Well, Mike,
If I could just respond to your question. You raised a number of issues, and they're the right issues for the council to think about. And I was just asking Amber if the proposal is to perhaps spot zone just the site, or if it's to zone the parent parcel plus the site. From my perspective, if you were looking at changing your comprehensive plan and your map, your future land use map in your plan, it would be more palatable to look at new zoning for the entire site. Got something to work with. Amber pointed out correctly, whatever zoning you approve for that parcel, any approved uses in that are allowed or are conditionally permitted. And that's the case until the property is rezoned to something different. So you need to be prepared to live with whatever use falls under that zoning designation. What makes it more difficult when I look at just the site piece of it is assuming that the parent parcel is going to develop residential purposes, and then you've got north, and I look at the county property around, it's rural res. I mean, so, you know, now if you were to look at it and to say, well, 2.5 acres or whatever the site is, could be industrial or could be a flex zone or something like that, it will be in the future probably one of those things where you're driving down K out of the neighborhood and then an industrial type facility and you say, well, how'd that get there? Right? And that then comes back to this discussion. And the challenge is, I think as you said, that there are places in town now that we look at and think, well, how did that get there? Because once you allow for that type of zoning, then it doesn't change into the future. Industrial or flex zoning in a residential area in perpetuity. And to your question about, well, can you have an agreement, covenant? Well, not really, because the reality is the zoning is going to control what the zoning is in the future. So, my point is that if we're looking at a small particular site that really truly is surrounded by residential, then you need to be prepared to find some benefit to that zoning on that site, and you need to be prepared for that use to be there for the long term, because that's likely how that property will be owned in perpetuity.
I think the danger is that if it wasn't Klaus here with his business and the regard I think that most people, maybe everybody, has for what you do, and how fortunate we are to have it in Richmond, we wouldn't even be talking about this. Whatever the other uses of industrial zoning is, pretty much, in my opinion, if any of those other uses were represented here tonight, the answer would be no. And that's what makes this hard, because as Nick just commented about, oh, we are so fortunate, and I'm saying this sincerely, to have your business here. You really do a unique, it's an awesome kind of a marketing thing. That's just great for the community. And again, I wasn't trying to be insincere. You're not going to be there forever. And Antlers by Klaus possibly won't be there forever. And so we've said, okay, whether it's this piece or this piece, whatever fits that zoning, you gotta live with that. You can't tell them no. And that's what's problematic. I think the idea of conservancy and all of that, and I understand how your business works there, but that's the difficult part of this. If it wasn't you, the answer would be no. I don't think we'd be meeting on this tonight. But because of the value of what you represent, that's why this is being discussed. And I hope you take that in the positive way. I absolutely mean it.
Mike, I couldn't agree with you more, and I think we as a council need to look at not just what we have here today, or even 5 years or 10 years, what's this gonna look like in 30, 40 years? Is this gonna be more industrial in this area? No, this is gonna be, continue to be residential. And that's what makes it tough. I couldn't agree more with Mike, though.
Noah, do we have parcels still left in our industrial park area that are over 2.5 acres?
Yes, we do.
Good place to put it.
Maybe, can I speak? Yeah, maybe it's simplistic, what I'm going to say, but I almost look at this as not a residential area. I mean, just because the nature of that piece of land, there's no residents around that land, and I mean, there's not one neighbor there around that land. And so that's why I was looked at it as kind of an island and not necessarily, it would be very different if that was in I'm going to say a residential area. I just never viewed it as being in a residential area, this property in a residential area. So that's how that's the reason we brought it forward, I think, because of the uniqueness of this property and the uniqueness of his business. It'd be different if he was manufactured packaging equipment or, doing something like that. But this is a very quiet, unique business to fit a very unique piece of property. And so that's kind of how I looked at it from a residential area. To address your question, Mike. Yeah.
Completely get it, Jerry. And to me, looking at this and this conversation we're having here tonight, don't get any ideas, Craig, but to think of this was some type of a park, really in terms of what it could do. So I'd be interested in continuing that conversation, but I think that's the challenge here with what we got tonight. And it's tough. You got a railroad track there. And I absolutely get it, but we don't have any industry or industrial area around there. And of course, hence, that's the whole discussion about spot zoning. So I appreciate the thinking. I hope we can do something that works for you, Klaus, somewhere. That's a tall order for me. Not because of you at all.
And I think the proposal brought to us was, what are we thinking before they go spend a whole lot of money going somewhere where it may not go to? And I appreciate that. And who wants to spend money that's in a rabbit hole? So appreciate you bringing it forward in this manner. I don't think we need do we need a motion?
We should reflect something in minutes, whether the council's supportive of the concept to move forward or not. I think to Alderman Reese's point, again, this is a concept plan, so if it's something that the council was supportive of, then they would look to hire surveyor, engineer. We would work forward with comprehensive plan update, zoning changes. But if this is something that, as it's presented today, that the council wouldn't see there being support for down the road, we wouldn't want them to incur those times and costs associated with it, so.
And the language could be along the lines of motion to or to not recommend applicants proceed with subsequent development applications for the proposed concept plan.
I would move to not, whatever you said.
Recommend applications proceed with subsequent development applications for the proposed concept.
Thank you. Michelle, you got
You're
all that, right?
Got it. Can you spell subsequent? Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Gartner,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Montello,
Yes.
Alderman Kittle, Alderman Breeze.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thanks, guys.
Next item is ordinance 624.
City staff have prepared an update to the zoning ordinance regarding home occupations. These updates have come forward in light of a recent trend of more individuals working from home, especially since the 2020 COVID era. We do have an existing home occupation section in our ordinance, and we're looking to expand on that. And so there are a number of changes made. The biggest change being that we're now defining major and minor home occupations in our ordinance. So home occupations would now be allowed in all zoning districts with the exception of Z7. Reason being that home occupations have to go along with the residence, and residential housing is not allowed in the Z7 district, so therefore we wouldn't need this home occupation in Z7. Minor home occupations can occupy up to 30% of the principal dwelling unit and up to 50% of the permitted accessory structure, up to 500 square feet. Minors can have up to one non-resident employee, and that would be an allowed use. Then major home occupations, similar, would be 30% of the principal dwelling unit and 50% of the permitted accessory structure with no cap on the amount of space. And with majors, you could have up to 5 non-resident employees. And this would require a home occupation permit that would be issued by city staff. And through the application, we would ask a bunch of questions to ensure their home occupation complies with the general standards in the ordinance. I'm happy to answer any questions.
I think it's important for people to understand, you know, every time we define how many dogs you can have or where you can park or that kind of thing, some folks say like, oh, I see somebody's in violation. The city should do something. And same is true with this. If somebody was concerned, the city is not going to police why there's a lot of people walking in and out of the house. Is that a major and they don't have the allowance for that? It's really based on responding to people complaining about something. And I don't encourage that, but I just, so people understand, we're not in the home inspection business like that. So I'm gonna offer a motion that we approve ordinance 624 regarding home occupations.
I'll second it.
Alderman Gartner,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert, Alderman Montello,
Yes,
Alderman Kittle,
Craig, are you there?
I'll reach out to him. Alderman Vrees,
Yes?
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Item, bid results, main lift station.
One of the projects included in our 2025 capital improvement plan is the replacement of some pumps at our main lift station. The public would best know this as the brown building at the Nature Center, kind of on the north side of the parking lot. And so earlier this year, the Utility Commission and City Council authorized staff to solicit bids. We advertised for bids in the month of April. Bids were due at the end of that month. They were reviewed by the Utility Commission at their most recent meeting. We received 2 bids, one from Quality Flow Systems and the other was from Crane Engineering. Our estimated project cost was $250,000. You can see that both of the total bids came under that number. We did have a base bid and an alternate just in the event that the base bid were to come higher than what we had anticipated. But in this case, both the base bid and the alternate together came within budget, which was a positive. And so the recommendation from staff and the Utility Commission would be to award the project to the low bidder, Crane Engineering, in the amount of $234,692. And then this project would be completed in 2025.
I'll make a motion to approve the low bid of $234,692 from Crane Engineering.
Second it.
Alderman Volkert, Alderman Montello,
Yes.
Alderman Kittle, Alderman Vrees,
Yes?
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Gartner.
Yes.
Motion passes. Item is fire department radios.
Another project that was included in the 2025 capital improvement plan was the replacement of some radios for the fire department. If you recall at our last work session, as we discussed the 2026 budget for police, this is going to be a theme you'll see going forward, both for police and fire, is the upgrade of radios, not just for Richmond, but all of St. Croix County. In terms of our capital improvement plan, our estimated cost for radios was $75,000. Staff reached out to Motorola, which is where we purchased most of our radios through, and they proceeded with purchasing radios in the amount of $62,796. This was discussed at the fire board meeting earlier this evening. We did want to be transparent to note that typically this would have come to the fire board and the council prior to proceeding with that purchase order. This wasn't malicious intent by any means, but we did want to be transparent to bring that to your attention versus you approve the project tonight and then you learn after the fact that, well, actually we already did that. So we just wanted to be transparent and bring that to your attention. But hopefully it's something that we address internally and it does not happen going forward. So the recommendation from the fire board is to proceed with the payment for the radios in the amount of $62,796.
Mr. Mayor, I'll offer a motion that we approve the purchase of those radios in the amount specified.
Second.
Yeah, so the capital projects are all split within the, so we're a little over 50%. Yep.
In your last paragraph, it says until further notice, all purchase requests, is that in this too?
That doesn't have to be in the motion. That's more of an administrative decision, so that's been in place for a few weeks now.
Alderman Montello?
Yes.
Alderman Kittle? Alderman Vries?
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier?
Yes.
Alderman Gartner?
Yes.
Alderman Volkert?
Yes.
Included in the packet, you can see a small table. We every year when we have our own street and utility projects, in this case for 2025, it'll be Bilmar Avenue. We engage with a consultant to be on site, to be observing the underground construction work to ensure that everything's being constructed correctly. Because ultimately, when that road is built, the city is responsible for the ongoing maintenance. In this case, this is for a public project. We do the same thing for private projects as well, even though those are at the expense of the developer. In this case, we reached out to both MSA Professional Services and to SEH, given their familiarity with our community. And we estimated that the scope of work for Bilmar Avenue would be about 500 hours. So you can see in the memo, we have the rates from both firms. And the recommendation from staff and the Utility Commission would be to proceed with SEH as they had the low bid rate of $113 per hour. So again, with an estimated 500 hours, that represents a cost of $56,500. So that would be a part of our street and utility project expense for 2025.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second, but I have questions. So 500 hours, that's just an approximate number, or are we on the hook for paying for 500 hours if it's less or more?
So it would be, that was the estimate just for them in terms of providing their quote or their estimate. That way they know, okay, am I committing a full-time employee, or is this just, I'm there for a week? Really for the firms to be able to give a fair number, but it could be less. Obviously it depends on, it's not that you have to have somebody there 40 hours a week, every minute, but at the same time, there's been issues where if you don't have somebody for a week and now suddenly there's a pipe in the ground and it's buried. So it is important to have, someone there at key times.
I understand it. So this is kind of, they're watching over the developer or the contractor to make sure everything is in good shape. And once the city accepts the street in this case, how long is that recommendation by the engineering firm that this is a good street? I mean, is it good for 1 year? Is it good for 5 years? Is there a number that all of a sudden we're having trouble with this and it wasn't caught by our?
So typically, if there's an issue that comes up with, let's say the road was completed here in 2025, and now next spring we see that there's, cracks in the pavement or something that needs to be addressed, that would still be within that warranty period for the street.
That's by the contractor then, or is
By
that
the contractor, yep.
Okay.
But, once you get beyond that, then there really isn't that guarantee. So, and we've had issues like that in the past where, the engineer's no longer here or the contractor's gone. So it is really important that, and not just relying on that engineering consultant, but staff as well to be out there to have multiple eyes on it, not just, the consultant signed off on it, good enough. So the more eyes we can have on it, the better. This is something that in years past, when we were a smaller community, we would have done in-house. But again, then you're committing a full-time employee who's not doing other work, but they're there at the job site. But we do still try to have staff involved with some of those reviews, in the event that a consultant misses something.
Thank you. Ron, I think it might be a job for you in the future here.
So SEH is basically saying,
Right, so and also making sure that, as-built match the construction drawings to the extent possible. And, again, that way next spring, there's a leak, we can look back to say, okay, and some of this also isn't just supervising, they're documenting it, photographing things as it's being built, and really just making sure they're being held accountable.
Alderman Kittle. Alderman Vries.
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier.
Yes.
Alderman Gartner.
Yes.
Alderman Volkert.
Yes.
Alderman Montello.
Yes.
MSA for safe
Good evening, Mayor and Council. In preparation for the construction of water tower number 3, we are exploring it with the cooperation of MSA, our eligibility for a safe drinking water loan. We have used this loan program through the DNR for various projects throughout the city. And the benefit of the program is that it provides a subsidized interest rate, so the cost of borrowing ends up being lower. Given the complexity of the application process, we've typically always partnered with a professional to help us in the application process. There is a pre-filing requirement, which we have done, that determines if our project is eligible for funding. At the present moment, we're working with the DNR because our project has been noted as undetermined, which means we may or may not qualify for funding. And so right now we're working through gaining additional clarification with the DNR to see if we will be eligible for that. However, given the time frame for filing of application, which is due by June 30th, we want to make sure that once the DNR has confirmed either we will be eligible or not, that if we are, we're positioned well so that we can complete that application on time and submit it. So the proposal that's in the packet tonight would be for services performed by MSA to assist us in the application process. The cost would not be incurred if the DNR says that we are not eligible for the funding. But again, we just wanted to position the city in the best position so that once we work through clarification, if we are eligible, we can file the application and move forward. So the contract is $13,500 for that service. This did go before the Utility Commission last week, and they did recommend approval.
I'm going to offer a motion that we approve the attached contract to MSA as
Second.
presented.
Well, it depends on each project. For example, for us, in some of the projects where we've taken either advantage of the safe drinking water loan or the clean drinking water loan, we've done the wastewater treatment plant, we've done the reconditioning of the water tower. So The issue right now at hand that we believe with the DNR is that they are looking at the project as it's completely dependent and based upon new development, which is causing the tower need, which a portion of that is, but a portion of it is existing deficiencies, which would be a qualified and eligible project. So it really, I think, is some additional clarification on the project with the DNR. So we're hopeful that they'll at least see a portion of their project could be eligible. There could be a portion of the project that will be ineligible. But again, we're hoping to work through that. There was, several projects in their list that came out that were funded, including other water towers. So I think that, we have a good case with them, but again, working through those.
Alderman Vries,
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Gartner,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Montello,
Yes.
Alderman Kittle.
And this resolution is a requirement of the safe drinking water loan if we move forward with an application. And what it really allows the city to do, that any expenses that are incurred in advance of funding being put in place, they are eligible to be reimbursed. This is also a similar resolution that we do in any of our GO borrowing or revenue type of borrowing, where prior to maybe that funding being fully in place, we are incurring engineering costs and or pre-construction costs. And so those then become eligible with having an intent to reimburse type of resolution. So again, this is just kind of a formal technical aspect of it, so that would allow us to continue with the funding program if we are eligible.
So move.
Second.
No.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Gartner,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Montello,
Yes.
Alderman Kittle. I do see him as still connected, that's why I keep asking. And Alderman Vries?
Yes.
Again, in your packet is the full report this evening. I'm just going to highlight some of the key revenue drivers and some of the key expenditure drivers. And then if there's any questions, certainly ask those and I will address those. If we can go to the slides, please. Next slide. So actual revenues in all revenue categories, we collected over 47% of total revenues budgeted for the year, just over 4.5 million of the $9.6 million of budgeted revenues. And if we go to the next slide, we'll go into detail as to what those revenue drivers are. So from a property tax perspective, we collected just over $3.5 million in property taxes, which accounts for about 61% of budgeted revenues. That certainly was trending above our 5-year average of 57%, while total tax collections is higher than budget when we look at the actual amount collected as a comparison of the overall taxes collected. That's where the 5-year average trend is. So that we're certainly seeing tax collections, kind of that full amount being paid in the first half installment and maybe not waiting for payment to be made over 2 installments. We also received $453,000 in county library funding. Those are always received in the first quarter of the year. It is a 15% increase from the prior year. Interest earnings on our investments also remain favorable due to continued good market conditions. We earned $118,000, which accounted for about 66% of our budget. So if market continues as first quarter, we would certainly anticipate that we're going to area. Building permit fees collected of 59,000. This is about 35% more when we look at last year. Also, right-of-way permit fees of 55,000 were also collected throughout the first quarter, and again, that's due to continued fiber work that's occurring within the city. And then finally, just over $15,000 in funds were received for sign advertising on the Richmond Crossing sign, as well as various grants and donations that were received. From expenditures, we have, when we look at expenditures in the quarter, we anticipate that our expenditures will be roughly about 25% of budget. And through first quarter, we're right on target at 25%, with our total expenditures being just under 2.4 million of our $9.6 million budget. And if we go to the next slide, we'll go into the details. In the first part of the year, there are several upfront expenses that are incurred, which can kind of cause that unfavorable variance. Those include insurance premiums. It includes our ambulance service expenses, assessment services, and fees to the IFLS library system for the system and maintenance of that program. We also experienced a one-time expense associated with the repairs on the traffic control signals at Knowles and 6th Street. That was an expense that we were aware of in 2024. And so we did reserve funds and carry forward those funds for the repairs that occurred in 25. That was about $67,000 in repairs for that control cabinet. Other expenses that are also incurred in the first quarter, we have a large amount of software support and maintenance that are for our municipal software systems, as well as our website and contracted IT services through the first quarter. That contributes to about $45,000 in expenses. We also had $37,000 in snow removal expenses, which includes salt, snow hauling, and blades for the trucks. We also had $23,000 in overtime wages associated with the snow event. And lastly, other notable expenses that occurred in first quarter include auditing expenses of $22,000, $20,000 in police vehicle repairs and maintenance. $13,000 of that is attributable to insurance claims that we will recapture through insurance. And then also there were a number of ash trees that were able to be removed as part of the 5-year removal plan due to favorable weather throughout first quarter.
Question I have is, we got about $60,000 of snow and ice removal and street overtime. Is that just from the weather events we had?
Correct, yes. So some of the salt that we buy in that first quarter, though, we still retain and we would use into the fall time as well. So it's front-loaded a little bit heavy in the first year, the first quarter. The overtime wages, however, though, are associated with just the first quarter.
What happened with the street light on 6th and Knowles last week? Fall over, or what was the deal with that?
No, that was struck by a vehicle.
Oh, it was, okay.
Was.
What was that?
A friend of mine was parked there when it fell over. He didn't see anything happen to it. And,
I thought there was a vehicle that was.
No, I think that we got the traffic video and it just,
That's one we just fixed?
Fix the control cabinet for the signaling of those lights.
Got it, okay.
Questions on expenditures? I don't have that number off the top of my head. I believe it's either $80,000 or $90,000 annually. Correct, that would be the whole year. Correct. Last year, if I recall, we were under, yes, in that area. Next slide, we'll just do an overview. So for 2025, our total debt obligations are 2.9 million. In the first quarter, we had just over $675,000 in debt payments, which is about 25% of our total payments due that year. 63% of this year's debt is repaid through property taxes. 34% is repaid through rates from the electric, water, sewer, and stormwater utilities. So that's revenue debt that was taken out, or revenue repayment debt that was taken out through general obligation. And then lastly, a very small portion still is being repaid through tax increment districts at 3%. That's all that I had this evening. If there's any other questions, I'm happy to answer those. This item doesn't need actual formal approval, though.
So at the former landfill, and you can see included in the packet, I have some photos. There's a gravel driveway that extends about 500 feet. And it had been in place for several years. This was removed about a year and a half ago by staff. That was not removed with prior authorization from Park Board, Public Works Committee, City Council. And so as you can see in the photos in the packet, we had a vehicle that was got stuck in the mud earlier this year. And staff have met with the engineer consultant that does the testing out there. And this was identified as something that needs to be restored and addressed by the city going forward. And so while the property is used not just for the landfill, but also for the disc golf course, I think many of you know the history of the landfill and the amount of money that was invested, not just by the city, but the townships in mitigation for the landfill. And obviously, we continue to incur costs relating to that ongoing testing. In terms of the driveway itself, in some cases, this is just a small truck that has to use this. In other instances, it's a larger vac truck. As condensation builds up, there's pumping that has to be done. Otherwise, the system shuts down. So it is important that there is access for vehicles. This was not included as a 2025 capital improvement plan. So if this is a need that the council recognizes and wants to address here in 2025 during the construction season, then the next question would be as to what the source of funds would be. Included in the memo, I outlined a few potential sources. One would be looking at our operating budget. Now, the downside of that is that's less dollars than that are available for things like street maintenance or park maintenance. Another possible source is the Parkland Trust Fund. Again, the driveway was removed in part to enhance the aesthetics for the disc golf course. Again, if those funds are used, then there's less dollars available for park projects going forward. Another possible source would be, again, we share those ongoing monitoring costs with the other jurisdictions. And so, potentially the other partners could share in those costs. However, as I noted in there, that's highly unlikely. They weren't involved with removing the driveway, and I would presume they would not be eager to pay a cost for something that they weren't responsible for. And so in terms of discussion for tonight, first it's recognizing is this a need and something that we want to address in 2025? And then if there's any thoughts or opinions as to what the source of funds would be. This is the first time we're discussing this as a group, so if you wanted to make a decision tonight, you certainly could. If it's something you want more time to consider, we can certainly continue discussion at a later date as well. But wanted to bring this to your attention. Obviously, it's May. If it's something that we're going to get a contractor on board with, you can see included in the memo, we do have a couple quotes, just so you can see what cost we're looking at. And so we did have two quotes. The low was in the amount of $13,390. That's inclusive of materials, labor, equipment. And so, well, you can make a decision tonight if you want more time, but it's certainly not something if we want to do in 25 that we want to put off. Otherwise, contractors book up, and before you know it, it'll be a 26 project. So.
But I'd like to start, I think that this road obviously needs to get using that are represented, doing
Both the
DNR work
DNR and
reporting?
GHD is our engineer consultant.
I think there isn't any question that the driveway needs to be replaced. Give us 3 examples, potentially, nevertheless, we do need to replace it. Costs, and it astounds me, but if we're gonna go toward having a options we would have, I don't know if that's
We do have the ability to do it, but then it's just that then you're taking staff time again away from other projects. So, and not something we necessarily do every day either. And obviously, anytime you're doing work by former landfill, we want to be careful with how deep we're going and making sure things done to specifications. So. Yep. So you'd have a sub base. You're probably talking 12 inches. So.
No, this was caused by the gravel being removed from on top of the road, correct?
Yeah, the gravel was removed and it was replaced with just black dirt and grass seed.
The gravel that was removed, where did that go?
So that was disposed of. If you're familiar with where the east parking lot is, there's kind of drops off down that way. So it wasn't necessarily reused for a road or driveway. It was, so I mean, it's still there on site, but it wouldn't be able to be reclaimed at this point.
Was this authorized by the supervisor?
It's difficult to know for sure, going back in time, and then obviously the supervisors who were in that department at the time are no longer here. So, I don't want to say who authorized or who knew what. We've spoken with some of the employees that are still here that, had knowledge about it, but we really wanted to just focus on moving forward to say this needs to get corrected and focus on that rather than who knew what or who authorized what. But that is something obviously we want to make sure that, in terms of authorization for changes to any city property, whether it be a park or in this case the former landfill, that those things are being vetted through, at the committee or council level.
Talking about when we should repair the road. When is the next time the large trucks would have to go down that road?
It'll depend in part on the weather we have this summer. So, if we have a wet summer, that condensation is going to build up quicker, and then the vac truck may have to access that. Testing in general has declined, as levels have declined steadily over the years. So we aren't doing as much sampling and testing today as what we were 10 years ago, 20 years ago. We hope that will continue. But if we do have some heavy rain and stuff here this summer, they'll have to access that. And of course, if you're having those high moisture events, then that's typically when it's going to be muddy there as well. But then you may go a few months without having any truck access down there.
So the testing is weather related, whether we get a lot of rain or not?
With the vac truck, that's now there are cases where it's just more of a pickup truck that's going down there. But as that condensation builds, it can actually shut the system down until someone goes out there manually to reset it.
I think maybe, Ron, what you're asking is if we knew when the testing with the big vehicle was going to be, we certainly could have it done by then. But maybe urgent of a project. I mean, if they're going to be there next week, then we got to have the road in. But if they're not going to be there till August or September, that would make a difference.
Don't you think, Pete, the problem is we don't know.
I know,
Right.
And they won't tell us?
So the reality is the road should be replaced as soon as it's feasible.
Got it.
There's no reason to wait. To me, the issue tonight is where's the money come from? And I agree with you, option 3 is out. And I will tell you the way I'm leaning, the money should come out of the Parkland Trust Fund. It's not fair to go to the general tax revenues. Somebody made a decision, hey, I'm going to take that gravel out of there, and really for the benefit of one of our parks. So the road has to be restored. I've asked Noah the question, is there any other place to put it? And I think the answer is there really isn't. On the site, is there a way to be farther away from the disc golf course? There really isn't. You asked the question about city staff. Obviously, we have a challenge out there because there's a clay cap and there's stuff underneath there that you don't want to disturb, and I wouldn't want to be on the hook for that. But I think it would be irresponsible of us not to give the direction, go ahead, get it done. Okay, you got a bid, get it done. To me, the question is, and I'll put this out to the rest of you, the question is, where does the money come from? And again, I'll say it again, option 3 is not an option. You can't go to those townships and in some cases businesses that donated for the remediation work out there and say, okay, we took the road out and we want you to pay to put it back in. Can't do that. So you know what, for the sake of putting it out there, I'm going to offer a motion that we direct staff to get the road reestablished as quickly as is feasible. Okay, I'm not asking you to go do it tonight. And that the source of funds is going to come out of the Parkland Trust Fund.
That'll be a low bid from what we have here.
Yes.
I'll second that.
Alderman Gartner,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Montello,
Yes.
Alderman Kittle, Alderman Vries.
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier.
Yes.
Can I just offer a motion? Mr. Mayor, I'm going to offer a motion that we approve your appointments, citizen appointments for boards and commissions, 2025.
Second that.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Montello.
Yes.
Alderman Vries,
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Gartner.
Yes.
Motion passes. Council appointments to boards.
I move to approve. I'll have a question after we get a second.
I'll second it.
Is the Urban Reserve really one of the committees?
It is. So in this past year, if you recall, we updated our ordinance to reflect that. So it's just a one-year appointment, both for the citizen, Fred Horn, and then for the 2 council members as well.
Alderman Montello,
Yes.
Alderman Vries,
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Gartner,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert.
Yes.
Well, just that people were super excited to get change of assessment notices. They went out to property owners. They started arriving over the weekend. They are in envelopes that say accurate assessor, and that is actually from it's real mail. Don't throw it away. If you have questions, call the assessor or us. at
Well,
the
actually,
clerk's
what you mean
office.
is after you open it up, and depending on what it says, maybe you want to throw it away.
You're not going to want to throw it away.
I've already seen it,
Oh.
firsthand, anecdotal.
I don't dare to open mine.
Did you have anything else?
No, that was it. Just open it.
I want to throw something out as the chief's going to grab the microphone. I just noticed recently, so there's a cement truck work that takes a cement truck being done on 140th. And it seems to me that cement trucks are coming from Semstone on Highway 65 into town, turning on Richmond Way to head over to 140th. And I'm like, why are they doing that? When they could just go straight east from their plant, get on 140th and come straight down. I think if it's possible that we don't need cement truck traffic on Richmond Way, particularly while school's still in session, but I don't know, But could there be some communication there to ask them to send their cement trucks to that particular site to try to avoid these city streets?
I think it's on Paper Jack also.
What is? Okay, well, you come from Semstone, you go straight east, hit the roundabout, get down to 140th, you can really stay on the periphery of town. But Richmond Way, I would offer Paper Jack as another place. We really want to discourage them from using that when they have an alternate route that actually makes sense. So I don't know if that's a law enforcement thing or if that's a city administration communication, but I think we certainly should encourage them not to use those roads unless they're doing work there. If there's another way to get there, we'd like them to use that. I think
I was just
that's
gonna say, we had the K-9 fun run on Saturday, very successful, and a special thanks to Michelle and Jamie for volunteering and helping out down there, as well as a number of my staff that were in on their off-duty time to make sure that was a fun, successful event. So thanks to everybody that came out. And Coda did a tremendous demonstration.
Take anybody down?
He did. He took Lubo down pretty good, so.
Nice.
No, you could make that a paid event if they take Michelle down with that dog. It's like the dunk
On
tank.
election day.
It's like the dunk tank.
Your motion to go into closed session per state statute.
I'll offer that motion.
Yep.
Yes.
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 Yes.